All right, welcome back. So we have this super awesome web app that we love. It's amazing. We can even add quotes like "It's amazing," and that's probably from some movie somewhere, right? And we can save them, and they get added to the top even, which is great. We don't have edit and delete yet, so people might not love our work yet. But the thing that people are going to really be disappointed about is that if you refresh this thing, your quotes go away, right? And your quotes are not shared with anybody else. And you can see that we've got a real need for Firebase. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and visit my Firebase console. So I'll head over to my Firebase console. Hopefully you've got a link from your little bookmarks to where you can just hop over there. And what I want to do is I want to find my movie quotes. So here's my movie quotes one. And the information I really need are that config information. By the way, your database is probably empty right now. Mine has a bunch of stuff in it just from previous times I've done this app, right? So I'm just going to leave mine in there. But nah, what the heck? I'll delete it. I'll be just like you. So same state that you're in. And so your rules should be true. Or if you chose to, they'll be the more complex version that we talked about last time. Don't want to go into that again. And what we want to do is we want to go into the overview area. And you can see I've already got an iOS app for this because I teach an iOS class with this material as well. But yours probably just looks like this. So it's got these three options. So you want to click on web. And what I really want here is I just want these configuration values. I'm just going to copy straight from the middle here. So this is how I'm going to connect my app to my database. So I'm just going to have this in my clipboard. And I'm going to come over into Visual Code Studio. And I'm going to go to my environments. You'll notice that you have two environments, one for dev and then the other for prod. What we're going to do is we're going to make them both be the same. So we're going to say Firebase config, open curly brace, close curly brace. I choose to put a trailing comma on there. And then I'm just going to paste in that stuff that I have on my clipboard. So that stuff is how we connect to our database, right? This is also how you would connect to like your storage bucket, to your authentication, everything, but you kind of get it all in one chunk there. Now, what we did last time was we made the dev different from the prod. We could do that again. That would be just fine. We could use our default again, and we could put things over in there because that's how real apps work. But to be honest, that's overkill for the stuff we're doing here. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue to do in this class, is I'm going to make dev and prod be the same information. Now I'm going to continue to do that in the class because it's just fine for our tutorials, but keep in mind that for a real product, you would never do that, right? You would always keep your dev and your prod separate. All right, so that is what I needed for that setup. The next thing I need to do is I need to go do some Angular Fire 2 setup. So that's going to happen over in my module. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my bookmark, right? So I made this cool Angular Fire 2 setup bookmark last time. If you didn't make it last time, go make it this time. But where it should take you is it take you to the GitHub project, and it should take you right here to step number 3, which is what is the npm command that you need to run. Once you've got that on your clipboard, you can come over here to Terminal or PowerShell, or if you're using Windows. Looks like I lost my separate tab, and I'm just going to paste that command. So it does an npm install, so it goes and does a download from the internet of both Angular Fire 2 and Firebase. And then the -save, what that does is that writes it into my package.json. So you can see that right now I'm using version 4.0 of both of them, which is great. After that, I'm just going to go through my steps here. So it says that, go into your environments and add your Firebase config. I chose to call it Firebase config instead of just the word Firebase. And then go into your app module. You're going to need these imports. And I could use auto import to go get those things, but it was right there, so I'll just go ahead and grab it. And then that's going to give me this one line right here, and that goes down into my import section. And we chose to name ours Firebase config, so I just have to type the C, and then it auto completes the rest, which is great. Next is you could give it a name if you want. Again, never do that because that'll mess up. If you're trying to use regular Firebase and Angular Fire 2 together, it messes that up. Then the next is you have to add the individual things you want. Like, do you want auth? Do you want database? Eventually, they'll do storage and messaging. They're just not done yet. And we want database. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this import right here for the database module. and stick it right there. And then I'm going to grab this one right here for the database module and stick it, oh man, I forgot my trailing comma last time, right there in the imports. So eventually I'll quit doing these steps with you, but they're still fairly new. But this is just the setup for Angular Fire 2. The last thing is, in order to actually have it, you need to use it in some component. So it needs to be inside the constructor somewhere. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and make a constructor. I should have had a semicolon there before. So I'm just going to make a constructor in my app component. Usually you wouldn't do a lot in your app component, but in this app, it's going to be our only component, right? So we're just going to go ahead and fire away with things in here. And it actually is the line of code right here. So it's just DB, or whatever you want to call it, Angular Fire Database. And you can see that they actually have 2 imports up here. But to be honest, I could use auto import for this one, right? So I just brought that in just fine. Cool. So things are going pretty good. Oh, by the way, my linter is going to be mad about my auto imports, the use of double quotes, but forget the linter sometimes. So now I've just done the stuff that is necessary to set up Angular Fire. I'm going to go ahead and check that in right now. So it's just the things in package.json. The app component, we actually use dependency injection to get it in. And we set it up in the module and the environments right here. So this is setup Angular Fire 2. I guess they smushed together the word Angular and Fire. Now, to be honest, I usually check to make sure that things work before I check them in, but I feel pretty good about it because I've used it a couple times. And even if I mess something up, I'd be able to fix it. All right, the next thing we want to do is we want to actually use it, which is kind of a separate step than setting it up. So to use it, they've actually got instructions right here. So it says create an items. So I mean, we can copy this whole chunk, right? So let's go into our app component TS. Let's find our constructor. And what I copied to my clipboard was actually it encompassed the constructor again. So it says Firebase list observable, and of course it's mad about that, so I'm going to have to bring in that import, but that's an easy import to bring in. And it calls it items. Let's go ahead and call it movie quotes. So I'm just going to say movie quotes is a DB movie quotes here. It's mad because I've already got something called movie quotes. I'm going to fix that by commenting it out. And I'm going to fix this down here by commenting it out. So this was the local only solution. And I'm just going to kind of put that little snippet above those guys just as a reminder for why I had that in my code. I could just delete it, but I thought I'd just kind of save a reference to it. So what this is doing is this is going and it's making a connection between something in my database in this location. Right now it's saying /items. The path that I'm going to put it on, though, is /quotes. To be honest, usually when I put something like /quotes there, I usually make it a constant, just for good practice. I guess I could do it here. It feels like overkill here, but I'll do it. And since it's a constant, I'm going to say it's a read-only quotes path, and it's just equal to quotes. So that's a little bit overkill, but I consider things like that so important that I kind of like to make variables out of them. That way, if I ever do reuse it, it's a constant, right? Another thing you'll notice that I did different is there was a slash on here for /quotes, and I took it off. It's because I'm pretty sure it's optional. We'll see. If it doesn't work, then I'll fix it, right? All right, so this is making a connection to my list, which is great. That's one of the most important skills we're going to teach you in this class. It feels simple, but that's like one of the key things. And then if we go into the HTML to use it, before we said let movie quote of movie quotes. Now what we need to do is a little bit different. What this thing does is it fires up arrays periodically. So it's actually a stream that's firing up an array periodically. So it's kind of like a click listener as a stream. So occasionally there's like an event that happens. This is a stream, and occasionally it fires up events. In fact, I actually kind of want to name it that. So instead of calling it movie quotes, I'm going to change the name. I'm going to call it the movie quote stream because it fires off events And those events that fire off is whenever it's got an array of movie quotes. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to rename this. I'm going to use refactor on this side just because it can do it, but you'll notice that it only changed those two, which is great. Another thing I want to fix is right now it says that this is an array of any's. It's not an array of any's, it's an array of movie quote objects. So this is a stream, it's connected to my database. Whenever it gets data, it's going to fire an event that says, hey, here's the array. With what I've got set up here, it's going to fire off the whole thing, which is fine for this example, but usually you wouldn't want to fire off your entire chunk in a database. But I'm not worried about it here. Usually you grab like 30 at a time or something like that. Not the focus of this. Another thing I want to change is I'm now saying that this thing fires off movie quotes, but now, since they might come from the database, a movie quote might also have a key on it. So we'll talk more about this once we see the data, but whenever you get something from the database, it's going to have a key on it in addition to the data. Now, it's complaining because it says, hey, this thing doesn't have a dollar key. And that's because before it's in the database, it won't have a key. So my form movie quote won't have one. I'll send it to the database, and when it comes back, it'll have a key. So what I'm going to do is in my interface, I'm going to say it's a question mark. So it might have a key, it might not have a key. It depends on whether it's coming from the database or being prepared to go to the database. And so that's what we've got there. So the neat thing about this is you are actually doing read, and read is done. We just don't have any data yet. So it says movie quote stream pipe async. We'll talk more about the pipes. But right now it actually is working. It's just that we have no data. One fun thing you can do with Firebase is you can actually add data manually. So go back into your console. Oops, I lost my console tab. Looks like I've got it in here though. And I'm going to just cheat. And I'm going to add a piece of data manually. And then we'll do it right and not too long after this. But let's go ahead and just add one manually. So let's go ahead and say that we've got a path called quotes. On this path, we've got a fake key. So this is my pretend key. I hit plus on that. It's going to have a movie. We'll just go ahead and give it the Lego movie. And then I'm sure you can guess the quote that I'm going to give it, which is, everything is awesome, with an exclamation point. And now as soon as I hit add, what it's going to do, I'm going to go and try to get them both together here. As soon as I hit add, you can see it just boom, popped up right in my my web app over there, which is pretty cool. So it says everything is awesome, the Lego movie. And we could add more. So we could add a fake key 2, and then hit the plus on that. So I could have a movie. We'll just do a Rocky one here just because it's short. And then the quote is, yo, Adrian. And so as soon as I hit add there, you can see that yo, Adrian pops up over here. So it's pretty neat how easy it is to just kind of put in fake database into your data. I said that backwards. Fake data into your database. Now, you can leave it or you can delete it. Doesn't really matter. Eventually, I recommend you go back and you delete your fake data once you have real data, but we'll wait until we really have some real data. I was thinking about doing the real data in another video, but you know what? It's just not that hard. Let's just do it. So if we want to add data to our database, we go find where it's submitted before. So previously it was doing this unshift thing. And now all we have to do is we just have to say movie quote stream push this dot form movie quote. And that's kind of it, right? So we're going to push something into our stream, and that sends it up to the database. How few lines of code this is, or characters this is just crazy, right? So this is going to be my first quote, and then we'll just say my movie, and then we'll hit enter, and then boom, it's right on the top, and you can see that it actually is in my database. That was it. I mean, that's just crazy simple to push things up into the cloud. The keys are auto-generated. They're actually in order based on when you put it in. So this is my second quote, my second movie. And now you will notice one thing did not work the way I wanted. So this one showed up on top. but then the next one showed up beneath it. And that actually makes sense. They're in alphabetical order by key, and the fake keys that I generated, like they're just they're in their own alphabetical order. But by default, things are actually in chronological order, which is exactly the opposite of what I wanted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and clean off my fake data. So I'm going to delete that one. And you'll notice that it just blows it away, right? I love Firebase. Delete that one, just blows it away, which is great. So what we're going to do next time, I will cut it off here, is we're going to rearrange those things. So I suppose I ought to check this in. One more thing. Why not? I'll keep sneaking things in. Whenever you do a submit of a form, there is a risk that there will be a crash, right? There's always a risk that things will have a crash. But with forms and form submissions, when it crashes, it does something weird. And what it does that's weird is it tries to actually submit the form, like old school, like how would a form get submitted? It would do a post request. And it turns out that that is a hard bug to catch. So I'm just going to catch the error like this. So I'm just going to say form error, and then I'm just going to print it out. So what did I do here? I'm being a careful Nelly, right? And that's the same code that I had before. I'm doing it again. I'm just putting it in my own try-catch block. And the only reason I do that is because if there is an error that happens when a form is being submitted, it is really hard to debug. What happens, just because I've made this error so many times, is it does the form submit, which does a post request, which sends you to a new page, which clears the console log. So when you have an error, the console log gets nuked, right? So I do this whenever I do a form submit. It should work just the same. So this is A, B, and I hit submit, and I've got an A, B on there. That'll give me something to delete later, so I kind of like to have some junk data in here too. Just to kind of do the quickie review, you can see that we changed the movie quote to movie quote stream, and then we piped it to async. And then in here, we added the Angular Fire database stuff. We added the optional key. We put on a quotes path. We got rid of this array, and then we did the pulling of data down and the pushing of data up. Again, just very few lines of code. So this is added me some Firebase. Feeling in an informal mood this morning. All right, that's it for this time. I know it was a long video, but it was a pretty important one. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. See you next time. Bye.